Rumpelstiltskin by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. Once upon a time there was a miller who was very poor, but who had a beautiful daughter. Now it happened that he came to speak to the king, and in order to seem important, he said, "I have a daughter who can spin straw into gold." The king said to the miller, "That is an art which pleases me well. If your daughter is as clever as you say, bring her to my castle tomorrow, and I will put her to the test." When the girl was brought to the king, he led her into a room which was full of straw, gave her a spinning wheel and winder, and said, "Now set to work, and if by tomorrow morning you have not spun this straw into gold, you must die." So saying, he locked the room, and she remained alone. There sat the poor miller's daughter, and for the life of her she did not know what to do. She had not the least idea how to spin straw into gold, and she became more and more worried, and at last she began to weep. All at once the door sprang open, and in stepped a tiny little man and said, "Good evening, miller's daughter. Why are you weeping so?" "Ah," answered the girl, "I have to spin straw into gold, and I do not know how." Then said the little man, "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" "My necklace," said the maiden. The little man took the necklace, seated himself at the spinning wheel, and whir, 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 3 times around, and the reel was full. Then he put on another reel, and whir, 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 3 times around, and the second reel also was full. So he went on till morning, when all the straw was spun, and all the reels were full of gold. At sunrise the king came, and when he saw the gold, he was surprised and pleased. But he became all the more greedy for gold. He had the miller's daughter brought to another, much larger room full of straw. "If life is dear to you," he said, "you must spin all this straw into gold before morning." The maiden did not know what to do, and she began to weep. Then again the door sprang open, and the little man appeared and said, "What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold?" "The ring from my finger," answered the girl. The little man took the ring and began to whir again at the spinning wheel, and by morning had spun all the straw into shining gold. The king was delighted when he saw the masses of gold, but still he didn't have enough. He had the miller's daughter taken to a still larger room full of straw and said, "All this you must spin tonight, but if you succeed, you shall be my wife." "Even if she is only a miller's daughter," he thought, "I shall not find a richer wife in the whole world." When the girl was alone, the little man came a third time and said, "What will you give me this time if I spin the straw for you?" "I have nothing more that I can give," answered the girl. "Then promise, if you become queen, to give me your first child." "Who knows what may happen by that time," thought the maiden, and not knowing what else to do in her trouble, she promised the little man what he demanded, and in return once more he spun the straw into gold. When the king came in the morning and found everything as he had wished, he married the miller's daughter, and she became queen. A year later she brought a beautiful child into the world. She had forgotten all about the little man, when suddenly he entered a room and said, "Now, give me what you promised." The queen was terrified and offered the little man all the riches of the kingdom if he would let her keep the child, but he said, "No, something living is dearer to me than all the treasures of the world." Then the king began to weep so bitterly that the little man had pity on her and said, "I will give you 3 days' time, and if within that time you can find out my name, you shall keep your child." Then all night long the queen thought of every name she had ever heard, and she sent a messenger over the whole country to inquire what other names there were. When the little man came the next day, she began with Casper, Melchior, Balzer, and named all the names she knew, one after the other, But each time the little man said, "That is not my name." The second day she found out the names of all the people living near the castle. Then she repeated the strangest and most unusual names to the little man. "Is your name perhaps Ribsteer, or Sheepshanks, or Stringbone?" But each time he answered, "That is not my name." The third day the messenger returned and said, "I haven't been able to find a single new name, but as I came to the corner of the wood on the side of a high mountain where the fox and the hare bid each other good night, I saw a little house, and in front of the house a fire was burning, and around the fire the funniest little man was jumping and hopping on one leg and crying out, 'Today I bake, tomorrow brew, next day I'll have the queen's child too. I've kept my secret just the same, that Rumpelstiltskin is my name.'" You can imagine how happy the queen was when she heard the name. Soon after, the little man came again and asked, "Well, your majesty, what is my name?" The queen asked, "Is your name Conrad?" "No." "Is it Henry?" "No." "Are you perhaps called Rumpelstiltskin?" "A witch has told you that! A witch has told you that!" shrieked the little man, and in rage he stamped his right foot so deep into the ground that it sank up to his waist. Then in fury he seized his left foot with both hands and brought it down so hard that he sank deep into the earth and was never seen again. The end.